Well, hello, and welcome to the John DuLong Show. Welcome to episode number 48. It's the John DuLong Show, and as you're listening to the Danimals with Happy Effin' Birthday, yes, this is coming to you a day late, but, well, I'm fucking psyched, because it's been 1 year that I've been doing the John DuLong Show. Thank you so much for joining once again, as you do every week. My name is John DuLong. I'm just so very pleased to have you along for this ride once again. It's been a year as we hit here, episode 48. Of course, we missed a few weeks due to illness and etc. But we're back in the saddle, as it were. Just want to get some housekeeping stuff out of the way before we get into the thrust of the episode. Of course, happy birthday to the John DuLong Show. Thank you again so much for supporting me all this time. You can, of course, reach out and support the cause financially if you're so inclined by going to johndulong.com/Patreon, and you do it there for as little as $1. What I want to say is a big thank you to the folks over at Mount Recreation at Mount St. Vincent University. Had a great time at Mount Con, and I'm looking forward to more opportunities. I guess as I understand it, there was a few different events on campus, and as a result, it wasn't as well attended. But I got to have some real great conversations nonetheless, and I'm hoping to have some more conversations at the Mount real soon. We'll stay tuned on that one to see if things come about, as it were. But that's neither here nor there. I do also want to say that you should go ahead and make sure that you were subscribed to Elwood City Limits, because earlier this afternoon, as I'm recording this today, I sat down and had a nice long chat with my good friend Will over at Elwood City Limits, and this coming Friday I'm going to be on a very special episode as guest host, talking about Arthur as an adult. So I highly recommend that you check out Elwood City Limits every week, really. But yours truly is on there this coming Friday. So make sure that you tuned in for that. Now, and finally, all three of these shout outs here that I'm about to give, they are all technically belated birthday wishes. But I wish them happy birthday for realsies. Three big birthdays right in a row. My roommate and good friend Nick Patterson, my dear friend Mike Broadfield, who I got to see when he was in town for HalCon and for his birthday, and it's a bit fuzzy, but it is what it is. And then finally to Bevan Camo, my brother-in-law to be. Three big birthdays. Happy birthday to all three of you on this my birthday, not my birthday, the show's birthday. So normally, this portion of the show is a protracted rant about a few different topics. Just sort of whatever's at the top of my mind, whatever I'm feeling like I can talk about and ramble about for 10-15 minutes without taking a breath. It seems like sometimes. I'm not going to do that this week. Just this week of all weeks, I just want to talk about what the John DuLong Show is and what it has meant to me. As I think back to when I sat down and started recording the podcast about a year ago, year ago this week, I suppose, year ago today. Anyhow, I probably was a little bit more controlled in terms of my recording time back then. I was not just knocking it out the night before like I do with this and almost all of my responsibilities. Procrastination is one of my strong suits. I think back to starting that show and having these broad, far-reaching ideas of what it was going to be and what it was going to entail and what the John DuLong Show was going to be like. And honestly, like in a lot of ways, the John DuLong Show has deviated from that original vision. I was looking to do something with these big, lofty ideals. Maybe I was naive to have that viewpoint. Maybe I was naive at the very least about the amount of work that might be. But I'll tell you, as I listen back on that first episode, which like I just listened to it, please don't. The sound quality is dreadful. I hadn't even stuck the sock on the mic yet, guys. I when I listen back to that show and the sort of wide-eyed optimism that I had back then, I look at what I have now. Like honestly, I couldn't be happier with the last year of doing this show. This has become an incredibly important part of my week. This time that I sit down in front of this microphone and I talk to you. Even if you weren't there, it would be incredibly important to me. Don't get me wrong, I'm vain and I love having listeners listening to my show. But the time that I sit down and I just talk about things, talk about the world around me, try and make sense of different news topics that are important to me, that time is precious to me. It's an incredibly important method of creating something every single week. You know, with the exception of those 4 weeks that I missed due to illness. But I sit in front of the microphone and I get to just create something every single week, and it is just my creation. Like, yeah, I use music from Mon Plaisir, and this week from the Danimals. I use sound effects that I found online. I sometimes have a friend in to help in terms of an interview, where Will sent in that little bit that he recorded earlier this year. But ultimately, like, this is my baby. It's got my name on it, for crying out loud. And it's one of those things where I stopped even paying attention. I stopped paying attention to how many listeners I have in a given week. I double check the numbers just to make sure that the episode seems to be actually getting out to people. I of course make sure that people are aware that it's available for download. But like, honestly, the mere act of knowing that anyone is capable of listening to this, and I've made a small mark on the world, however insignificant. I don't know. That's really enough for me, and I want to thank you so much once again for being a part of it, for listening. If this is your first episode, if this is your 48th, thank you so much for being a part of the John Dulong show, of this little ride. Especially since I just listened to the first episode, and the fact that I have any listeners at all, that's a miracle. That's a testament to you people, actually giving a crap. So thank you so much for that. I'm gonna leave this right here, the mushy stuff, and on the other side of this little break here, we'll talk more about the WWE and more about Saudi Arabia, because of course. Well, folks, since we last chatted, of course, more news has come out about Jamal Khashoggi's death. As we know, the last story from the Saudi Arabian government was that he had died inside the Turkish Saudi Arabian consulate after a fist fight. This was later contradicted this past week when Saudi Arabia's Attorney General admitted that the murder was premeditated, which of fucking course it was. Like, of course it was. And BTW, if you're from Elwood City Limits and you listen to Friday's episode, this is what I meant. It gets a little bit blue here. Of course he was killed on purpose. They brought a fucking bone saw to dismember his body. Like, there's no two ways about it. Anyhow, this past week, the WWE released their third quarter 2018 financial business outlook highlights, etc. And this was where they announced formally that despite all of this going on in the world, they're going to go ahead with an event that is designed to give public relations help and public relations fodder to this crooked regime. It's mind-boggling to me. WWE, this is from the report, WWE has operated in the Middle East for nearly 20 years and has developed a sizable and dedicated fan base. Considering the heinous crime committed at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, the company faced a very difficult decision as it relates to the event scheduled on November 2 in Riyadh. Similar to other US-based companies who plan to continue operations in Saudi Arabia, the company has decided to uphold its contractual obligations to the General Sports Authority and stage the event. Full year 2018 guidance is predicated on the staging of the Riyadh event as scheduled. So, translation, it's a lot of money, and we want the money. It's boggling to me, mind-boggling to me. For his part, Vince McMahon was questioned by a couple of journalists about this. He more or less gave, without saying the words no comment, he more or less said no comment. I'll tell you right now, WWE, it's I have some sympathy for them in some ways. A lot of fans were very uncomfortable with this prior to Khashoggi's murdering. Honestly, for me, when they announced the Saudi Arabia deal, I kind of shrugged. I'm not going to lie about that. I kind of shrugged. I was vaguely aware of some of Saudi Arabia's, not so great acts in Yemen, etc. I kind of shrugged at the time that the original, the Greatest Royal Rumble event was announced, just simply because it did sort of seem to me just to be, okay, they're going to, it's essentially a botch show they're going to do in Saudi Arabia. It'll be essentially an overblown house show. All right. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but it's also not the worst. Then the Greatest Royal Rumble in Jeddah did happen. And it was basically a multiple hour long propaganda piece for the Saudi government to see, oh, look how awesome we are, look at how well we're doing, so on and so on and so on. I'm just saying this to illustrate the fact that there are people who were definitely dead set against the WWE doing any business. There were people who were completely fine with them doing business in Saudi Arabia, of course. And then there were people like me who just sort of sat firmly in the middle. And as information became more and more available, and of course as global events dictate, it became more and more obvious to me that this event shouldn't, and these events there should be no price tag essentially that would justify going and heaping this sort of level of praise on the Saudi Arabian regime as it stands. What's truly it's truly tone deaf on behalf of the WWE. What they're doing, all the while championing LGBTQ wrestlers who are under their employ or have been under their employ,